only been doing this for, I think, maybe a year or so. And when we first started, a lot of what we had done was a lot like this. We had a lot of people who were just starting out in their art who really just want to find a place to be comfortable. And honestly, yeah, even, I think Vanya was part of our first hideaway, right? Oh my God, that was so long ago. And when we first started that, a lot of us had already been trying to frequent the open mic scenes, trying to get a handle on ourselves as artists. And even back then, I was actually a musician when we first started, and I eventually transitioned that into spoken word. I've been doing spoken word for about 3 years now, and what happened? And for the most part, I feel like I've been a love poet. And so, like, when I hear people like Patrick, for example, I heard Patrick, I'm like, holy shit, this guy sounds exactly like what I did when I started. And you know what? I actually haven't done a love poem in, I think, maybe about a year. And just recently, I wrote this new one that I'm going to record for you guys. And my girlfriend was asking me, she was like, how come you haven't, written a love poem for me, ever? And I was like, when I first met her, she knew me as that kind of person. And I told her that when I was trying to write poems of her, what would happen is it would always just end up being cliches throughout the entire thing. And as a writer, obviously that's something you want to avoid. But I said, you know what, if I'm just gonna be this guy spilling cliches out to you day after day after day after day, fuck it, I'm just gonna own it. So this poem is called Cliche. I want to spend an afternoon comparing the parts of your body to flowers. How roses are like your heart and violets like everything that red is not. There's a word for what I'm trying to say, and I guess it's cliche. I want to write about how your eyes are the sun, and when I see them, my heart beats like a raging cliche. Your moon rises over the horizon and dips slowly into an ocean of my cliches. I kiss you on the cliche, and my cliche skips a beat. Things are like other things. I'm a poet, I get that. And it doesn't take a genius to relate a good feel with a beautiful scene, nor is it hard for me to feel good when your beauty is seen. I guess the frustration just leaks out like wild ink onto the page. And it forms these familiar shapes because everything good in this world has already been said. How all of nature's beauty and imagery only derive from God's divine symmetry. He said the word and he's made two halves, a man and a woman. And I swear to God, if I could swear to God, I reckon that man was me and that woman was you. And that's why whenever I'm with you, and I feel that touch of familiarity, you still leave me breathless, the air leaks right out of me. It forms the words, calls your hair stardust, or the curves of your hips, the ocean waves. You see, I've met you before. One day when the earth was first created with light, I was once the sun and you the moon. And we danced around creation until we created midnight and noon. Flash forward a few trillion years and we lived in a cave. I discovered fire, it felt really warm. I said it reminded me of you. That's why whenever men and women long for each other, they say, my heart is aflame. Every line of poetry still sounds like your name. I bet the first time someone ever remarked upon the redness of a rose, I was talking about how they paled in comparison to the blush on your nose. When I kiss you, I've said it probably 100 times, I miss you. And each time we've gone from each other's arms, I pray to God to resurrect me into someone who will love you even better than the last. Because you see, these cliches are just a record of our past, the words that have passed over different tongues when our souls first mingled back when our love was still young. And now will the writers avoid using these words, because maybe they've grown tired of hearing how much I love you, of how our poetry has persisted long past our names, and how this silly boy still loves you the same. We've lived 1,000 lives together, and I would love to live 1,000 more. And I've found a million ways to call you beautiful, and when I run out of ways, I'll find another million more, just to even up the score. Because even after all we've gone through, I see that our roses are red, and our violets are still blue. I swear I met you before, and I still love you. Thank you. I don't think that's bad for the first love poem that I've done in literally a year. So thank you guys for enjoying that. She still hasn't heard that yet. So for all you Loudmouth people, don't fucking tell her about that. So usually my girlfriend Davey, because is running our ticket booth, and like whenever I always like try to keep it someplace that's kind of far from the stage, but she can still kind of hear me, so that when she hears me, she can go be embarrassed and stuff, but in a place where she doesn't see my face. So anyway, that's what's going on there. The second poem, before we start going back to the open mic people, is actually my signature poem, and it's all about what it is to be a love poet. And I think one of the things that happens when you're a love poet is that a lot of people end up believing that the poems you write are completely non-fictional. So they come up to you after you do this poem about being, heartbroken and stuff, like, oh man, I'm so sorry for your loss. How is it? What's this girl? She's such a bitch. And I'm like, this girl doesn't exist. Because being a love poet, you kind of have to embellish to get the crowd to like you. But no matter what it is that you do, you always sort of bring it back to reality. You take a little bit of what it is you have experienced, and you turn it into something new. And I like to liken that process to like that old school chemistry alchemy, and so this poem is called Alchemy. Writing about love like old school alchemy, searching for gold but always coming up in lead, touching upon something real for which words don't always exist. This stormy-eyed girl, her monsoon kiss, or several other metaphors in my head I miss. To grasp something, either something tangible, something factual, but it's always been hard for the fiction to live up to what's actual. I don't always have words, or shining gold from the earth, but where she smiled at me was where poetry was birthed. You see, sometimes it starts off as something small, this seedling of a thought that gets planted in the garden of my mind, and before it's even time, it flowers. It takes days, months, or even just hours, and although I can't tell if it's in season, I've still got a reason to believe that this time is ripe, fruitful, maybe even beautiful. You see, the thing about love is that it comes when you least expect it, and when it comes, you don't in the least bit inspect it. You know just what it is. The first time that I saw you, the first thing that came into my head was, God damn, because you were just that beautiful. The second thing that came to my head was, I looked over at my friend and I said, I don't care what else happens at this party, I need to know her. So what I did was, I got the courage to walk all the way over there, and I introduced myself. And I said, hey, my name is John. And that was the first time I ever saw you blush at my name. And I think that's just the kind of leap of faith you need to take in writing about love, because it starts with tearing down all your preconceived notions of what it means to fall, how deep do hearts actually break, and what's it take to get others to feel what you feel, because no matter how fabricated the tale, you always inject a little bit of what is real. You verbalize a couple of internal lies that you've been hiding so that you can eternalize your vulnerabilities to an audience. It's never been the people in the seats, but the man on the stage who needs to be the most careful listener. Because after a while, you tear down all the fancy words and flashy rhymes, and realize that you wrote an essay to say what only ever needed 3 words. I love you. I love you. I love you to the point of poetry. And that is to say that meeting you made me into a rapid metaphor for me pretty words at the mouth. That is to say that you broke me into 143 pieces and I learned how to mosaic a verse from splintered thoughts. That is to say that I never appreciated punctuation until you split all my eager exclamations into ellipses and breaks. That is to say that I never appreciated the pause between words until we argued, and I wished I could live inside of one. That is to say that you taught me to tune on what you were saying so that I could hear the hurt behind it. And I guess that is to say that I regret that all the important stuff was always hidden beneath way too many layers. And we struggled in futility to say in words what could only be expressed in reading into their echoes. Because you see, in writing about love, in writing about what's factual, it's always been hard for the fiction to live up to what's actual. It's a cycle of redoing, revising, reconstruct, and I've never had a more eager use of my elite key. I've tried to write, wow, that's fine. I tried to write about love, but my words have never felt worthy. Thank you.